Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hometown Heroes. I'm your host, Mike Kenichi. Well, we've been away for a long time, but we are finally back, and I am honored today because we are joined by a great human being and a great athlete, former Ansonia athlete standout, Keith Pelatowski. And Keith, I want to thank you for coming on today. This is a real honor.
Yeah, Mike, thanks. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a little pregame jitters, but this is awesome. Been watching your show.
So
Uh,
let me
yeah,
ask you, what was more nerve-wracking, the night before Derby or this?
Night before Derby for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
I would hope so.
yeah.
So, Keith, before we get into the team, just tell me how. By the way, folks, if you don't know, a lot of our discussion today is going to be celebrating the 1990 Ansonia Championship baseball team. It was a magical run, and we're going to go into topic with that today and have a lot of fun with that. But Keith, how did the love for baseball start for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in my front yard where my parents still live, up on the hilltop in Ansonia, and the neighborhood. Our yard was the wiffle ball yard. So
Right.
we probably had between 10 and 12 of us just doing pickup wiffle ball games, age 5, age 6, and I just fell in love with just fell in love with playing the game in the front yard. I remember there being patches of where the outfielders were, where the pitcher was, no grass, and
Right.
my parents were like, "Yeah, do what you got to do." So it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let me ask you: was there any athletes you idolized or emulated as a kid that you really enjoyed?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a big Yankees fan, so Reggie Jackson, Ron
Yeah.
Guidry, Bucky Dent, those guys. I was a big Yankees fan. My uncle David was a huge Yankees fan. So, and my dad used to take me down to the stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. But really, I mean, what was closer to us was all the athletes at Ansonia High School. So all the football games we used to go to Thanksgiving, and then some of the baseball games as well. When I was 8, 9 years old. So yeah, that was a little bit more real for me because they were right up the road. So yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah.
So let me ask you: when did you? I know baseball. Obviously, you played from the time you were a little kid. When did you start playing football?
Yeah, same thing. I love playing football, but I never played organized football until freshman year in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
And now,
So
did you play quarterback as a freshman?
I did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, so let's just talk a little bit, Keith. When did you realize that you had the talent for baseball? I mean, did you realize it in Little League, or I mean, was it more Babe Ruth? When did you say, you know what, I could be really good at this?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a great question. I remember always having the love for the game, and I remember playing farm league baseball with
Right.
many of my neighbors, in the neighborhood. And they asked me to, because we were always playing wiffle ball, like, why not play hardball? And there was this farm league, as they called it, and I played for Holy Rosary
Right.
Up at Prendergast School. And I remember my dad was helping, and they put me in one game to pitch. I
Right.
think it was against VFW, which was one of the best teams. And I pitched the whole game, and I got the win. And I remember the light going off, saying, I like pitching. I mean, this could be something I
Right.
could do, rather than standing in the outfield and waiting for a ball to get hit to you. So I think that's where it all started. And then I always kind of had the knack to throw strikes, right? Never threw very
Right.
hard, but I could throw strikes. And so it just kind of went from there. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting, Keith, is I mean, you look at today, there are so many feeder leagues for kids. There's travel, there's AAU, there's, so many leagues that they're in. I mean, you didn't really have a lot of leagues to play in when you were a kid. It was pretty much Little League, Babe Ruth, the school team, but there wasn't all these feeder programs, correct?
No, there wasn't, and that's I think there's good things about that, and there's also challenging things, right? I mean, when we played back in the '80s and '90s, you played for the love of the game. You played on one team, and when baseball season ended, you went and played football or basketball. Now
Right.
it's year-round specialization. That's probably a whole new show that we could do on that. But yeah, I mean, loved baseball, loved football, loved basketball, and played in season sports, and that was really it. There was no club or travel or specialization back then. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And now, when you weren't pitching, what position did you play?
Yeah, I played first. I ended up playing first base on the
Yeah.
high school team, so that was cool. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And let me ask you, they always tell you as a young kid, you probably shouldn't throw curves. You could hurt your arm and stuff. I mean, did you mainly just throw fastballs when you were younger? I mean, did you have any certain pitches you threw?
God, as a kid, every kid wants to learn how to throw all these crazy pitches, knuckleball, curveball. I was pretty lucky. I threw fastball and a changeup. And then in high school, there was a pitching coach, Coach Saska, and he taught me a curveball, and that's when I started throwing curveballs in high school. So, yeah,
Right.
but I primarily I was a fastball changeup pitcher. Even when I made it into the professional league, it was mainly fastball changeup. So,
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, you're a left-hander, correct? I
I'm
mean,
a
you
lefty.
threw left-handed, right? Did you
Yep.
bat lefty as well?
I was lefty. I right-handed, but I bat and I throw lefty. So
Wow. And
yeah.
that's unique too, because I mean, my nephew's kind of the same way. He writes left-handed, but he bats and throws right-handed. But it's very unique. Like when somebody writes with their right hand to throw lefty and bat lefty. It's just very interesting that is how it worked for you.
Yeah, well, they say left-handers are a little bit weird, so I'm cool with that. So yeah.
Right. So let me ask. So let me ask you, freshman year of baseball, did you pitch for the freshman team? Did you pitch any JV? How did freshman year go?
Yeah, Coach Coach Jim Delvopi, he was our freshman coach, and played freshman ball with our. We'll talk about the seniors here, our 7 seniors that a close group of guys that played together all through Little League, Babe Ruth League, and then even into high school. But yeah, just pitched on a freshman team and played first base. And yeah, we did good. We had a good team, and I think Coach Vaca was anticipating that good things are going to happen with this class, and yeah, so it kind of went from there. But yeah, it was a pitcher first baseman as a freshman.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how'd you do freshman year pitching? Pretty good? Or...
I mean, I think so. Yeah, it's 30. Yeah, it's like we're 30 years ago, and that's even longer. That's 33, 34 years ago. Mike, is a little scary actually, but yeah. So I remember. Yeah, I remember Coach Dell being really cool with us, and letting us play the game as freshmen, and we did well. Yeah, we did well. Freshman football, basketball, and baseball. We had a core group of guys that played all 3, and we did well. We were a good group of athletes. So yeah. Yeah.
Right. Now, with football going on, I take it you weren't able to play any fall baseball. So pretty much your baseball season was from, spring and maybe till the fall. Did you play like Legion ball too?
Yeah, it was interesting. Back then there was no fall baseball. Again, no AAU, no specialization. So really it was, March through June was high school baseball. Played a little bit of Legion in July, and then football. August was football season. So I didn't play a whole lot of Legion ball, to be honest with you. It was again, season ended, on to the next sport. So yeah.
Right. So now sophomore year comes. Did you see some varsity action on the baseball team sophomore year?
Yeah, it was interesting. We had sophomore year, we had a talented senior class and junior classes as well. And I was slotted to pitch a little bit. And then John Coughlin, who was a great football player, hurt his knee in the offseason and decided to rehab his knee and get ready for football. And so I had lucky to have the opportunity to go ahead and play first base as a sophomore, which was great. So yeah, I played most of my sophomore year first base and pitched as well. And yeah, it was good. And so some of the seniors then, Brent Harvey, Tony Dula, those guys.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And Brent had played some semi-pro. I mean, I think he was in the Phillies organization for a little bit, so, and he was also a good hockey player. So, I mean, he was a pretty good athlete at Ansonia High as well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, I do apologize if my timeline is off, but if I do remember your sophomore year, you guys played Derby in the tournament, I believe. And that was a pretty hard fought victory. I think you played, I think Greg Petnella pitched against you guys that day. Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I wish I could remember that one. I remember our senior year against Derby because that was a big game for us. We could talk about that. But I remember in the playoffs getting beat by Chappaqua Valley.
Right.
and down at Municipal Stadium in Waterbury. And I remember the disappointment because we felt we were going to beat them, and it was a tight game. That was the game that we lost, and I remember everybody being pretty down about that because we felt we could make a run to the state championship. And Chappaq Valley had beat us previously as well. They had a talented lefty that shut us down again, and went on the pitch on Army as well. So
Right.
yeah.
And how'd you hit your sophomore year? Did you feel like you had a good year? Were you satisfied with how you did as an individual player?
I probably did better than I thought I was going to do. I was, in high school, I was about as tall as I am now, but probably, maybe 160 pounds soaking wet. So, I did pretty well. I said I hit pretty well as a sophomore, and coach continued to play me at first base. So I was really happy with that. Yeah.
Right. Now, did you play any basketball in high school, or did you just concentrate on the two sports?
Yeah, I did. I played freshman year, and then played sophomore year, and played under Coach McQueenie, who was another awesome coach. We'll talk about all these great coaches that I was lucky to be under. But yeah, played sophomore year, and then junior year I ended up getting I had a hand injury in my left hand that I sustained during football season, so I didn't play basketball anymore. That was it. So
Right.
Yeah.
And now let's just talk a little bit about junior year football wise. It was a unique year for you guys because you started off with a 4-2 record. There was I think you guys played Sacred Heart on a Monday afternoon, and they pulled off an upset. Then there was an upset that Derby had over you guys on a Sunday afternoon. So it was a fluke it was a weird season that year because you guys had trouble getting in the end zone at times, but then like the last 4 games of the year, you guys really clicked. And then, of course, that magical game against New London where half the Ansonia fans had left, they thought the game was over. And, I'll never forget Kevin Sharkey probably still has never saw that touchdown pass he made where Dave D'Onofrio just got ahead of his defensive back. And, you guys ended up winning, I believe, 20-15. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it was a year that there was again always high expectations, and Coach Hunt, Coach Hunt was back, and this was, I believe, it was his second year now, and
right.
Back from his reprieve from coaching, and so there was high expectations. We fumbled a little bit in the beginning of the year, no pun intended. We got beat by Sacred Heart, and Derby played us really well down at their field. Tight game the whole way. I remember that. I remember, right down to the wire, us driving. Yeah. We had 2 separate drives, and we almost scored both times, and that would have clinched the victory. So that was, that victory kind of stung a little bit more than the Sacred Heart victory because we felt. We felt we were better than Derby, but Derby came out and just stuck us on the line. I remember being quarterbacking, and Fran Hendricks couldn't get out of the backfield. I mean, the play of the Derby defensive line was something. They were getting into the backfield and getting me even before I threw the ball. So I do remember that. Yeah.
Right. Talk about a great athlete Hendricks was, though. If you remember in that game, you guys ran a screen pass, and he gets popped and goes right down on the ground, gets back up, catches the screen pass, and runs it for like 48 yards for a touchdown. I mean, I always watch that play and I say, wow, that was just a tremendous play by him.
Yeah. I also remember D'Onofrio making some spectacular catches. I mean, I was under a lot of pressure just throwing the ball, and he was making some of these acrobatic catches over the middle, and they're getting popped just like Fran was getting popped. So, yeah, it was great to play with Dave. He was a fun athlete to throw to. So,
right. And we'll get back to football a little later on, but so talk to me about the junior year of baseball, because I believe that, again, the expectations were high, and I think you did pitch that whole season. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, junior year was another year. We had another talented senior class. We'd been stopped the previous year by Chappaq Valley, but we felt we were better. I had missed part of the season due to a hand injury. I had some surgery and was coming back. I think I came back 4 or 5 games in, and but we played really well during the regular season, and then we went into the playoffs and got beat by Stanford Catholic at a close game 4-3. Another game, of course, we thought we should win.
Right.
But we ran through a lot of the MVL teams that year. I believe we were the MVL champs that year.
And
and
I
guys,
think you guys won 15 games, right? Something like that. Yeah.
So I remember that year, us clicking, hitting, pitching, defense, and a lot of new guys came in that hadn't played varsity before. And so we felt, all right, we're in a better position than we were last year,
Right.
my sophomore year. So, yeah.
Right. And I believe you made all NVL that year, correct? And
yes.
Even all area.
Probably.
Yeah. So you had a good year. And I mean, the thing is, Keith, in Ansonia, it's, football is always going to take over, the other sports. Like that's always going to be the number one sport. So, not everybody looks at the other sports sometimes as, that they could win championships, but it has been done in the past. But I mean, just talk to me about, like, did you guys have a goal going into the summer that year that, we want to win the state title next year? Was that the ultimate goal?
I think Coach Vaca's goal was always, let's win the MVL and let's beat Holy Cross. I mean, it was a little bit of an adversarial relationship with Holy Cross. Yeah. So if we beat Holy Cross and we win the MVL, we're well on the way. But I mean, I think Coach Vaca really wanted to win a state championship, and he, our 7 seniors, as he called them, really, I think he clicked with us, and he really wanted it. He really wanted a championship for us, because he felt our sophomore and junior year we deserved to win. And then there were guys like Brent Harvey and Dave D'Onofrio and many others that he felt deserved the championship. So as we concluded our junior year, and we, that loss to Stanford Catholic stung a little bit, we're saying this can't happen anymore, right? And so, so a lot of the guys, Jimmy Gagan, Dave Rhodes, Eddie Tedocio, they put in time in the off season to get ready for what was, what turned out to be a wonderful finish to our senior year. But there was always high expectations that Ansonia was going to do well, even baseball and basketball.
So talk to me a little bit about Coach Vaca, because he spent 40 years as the head coach at Ansonia High School, and you had Jack Hunt, who was very intense. And Coach Vaca was very intense too. I mean, but both of them were always well prepared. Just talk to me a little bit about, playing for Coach Vaca and the type of preparation he had weekend or day in and day out.
I think Coach Vaca for me was a guy that, because he was there so long and he established a process and he established an expectation that you were going to work hard and you're going to follow the system. I think, nowadays you just don't see that. Like, you don't see the legacy that a coach like that can carry. Obviously Coach Hunt, Coach McQueenie in basketball did the same thing. So that's why I think being from Ansonia was really probably one of the, that was, I take that with me wherever I go, because you cannot underestimate the fact that Coach Vaca had a system and a process. So he held the standard high. And you didn't finish practice until we got everything done that we were supposed to do. So I remember, in the early April practices, we're out in the football field and the pitchers are running their 50-yard sprints, right? And it's like, you don't finish until you finish, right? So he had this one saying that obviously I volunteer coaching my kids now. It's that work hard and watch the good things happen. And I think under Coach Vaca, that process and that system, really helped Ansonia baseball and kept Ansonia baseball successful for his 40 years. And, the championships were very difficult to come by because there were very talented teams in Class S and Class M. And that's the reality of it. So, he to me, he was special because, I got hurt in my junior year coming in, and, he really took to that and basically, coached me through that and guided me through that. And again, work hard, watch the good things happen, and you'll be back. And I won't forget that. So, yeah.
Right. And senior year, I think you were elected one of the captains. Before we get into the season in itself, just talk about, because there was you mentioned the 7 seniors. There was a bond between you guys, and I think that really helped you guys win the championship, because you guys weren't just good players. You guys were a team. That's what your goal was, and you guys played together like a team. Talk about those 7 seniors.
Yeah, well, there was the 6 of us I mentioned, plus Brian Johansson, J.E. Barone, and then we had a guy moving from Colorado who was just a pure baseball player, Scott Mastuzzi.
Yeah.
And so the seven of us really, we had this tight bond. But for the core, we grew up playing baseball. We grew up playing Little League and, winning the section in Little League. We grew up playing Babe Ruth,
Right.
went to school together. And so by the time we got into high school, we'd been together for some time during our childhood. And so in the off season, we'd go over to Corey's house. He had a Nintendo baseball league that we were a part of. Right.
Yeah.
And so I remember
RBI baseball.
that's whatever it was
Yeah.
30 something years ago. Right. And so, we had that and still today, I mean, a good example still today, David Rhodes organized the fantasy football league that these core baseball guys, plus some of the football guys are a part of. Right. And we named the championship trophy for the fantasy football league, the Baca Award.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so you got, being from Ansonia, was special because you had this tight group of guys that, wanted to work hard, but really just wanted to win and wanted to win for each other. And
Right.
Coach Baca saw that, and that's what his hope was through our 4 years, was that we were gonna do something special, and not just for him, but for the team. And so that really
Right.
came through. Yeah, that really
Right.
came through. Yeah.
Now, when the season began, Keith, there were quite a few injuries on this team. And, that's the one thing, too, that can sometimes hurt a team's success is injuries. I mean, we've seen it forever in, Major League Baseball. You see it in any type of athletics. Just talk about how the injuries affected the team early on.
Yeah, big expectations. Eddie, Jimmy, David, Corey, they're all focused on baseball, so they're coming in ready, and they've been working out in the off season at the Y, doing their Nautilus and stuff that Coach Vaca promoted. And we come in, and all of a sudden we're ready to start game one, and now Johansson's hurt. He was our catcher, so we got a backup catcher, Jamar Kelly, starting. Jimmy gets hurt during the season. Eddie had a shoulder challenge. Dave had a knee injury. So all of a sudden, we got these big expectations, and all of a sudden, half the team isn't there.
Right.
So it really put us. It shocked us a little bit, but we played on, and then we lost a lot of close games early on. We just could not get the big hit.
Right.
We could not get the big hit, and we were missing some of our key guys. So we ended up going 12-8 during the regular season, which it is what it is. You got to make the best of it. But we had some challenging times during the beginning and midway through the season. We had a couple turning points that I can talk about that were really interesting.
Right.
But it was.
I think Holy Cross was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. Correct.
Yeah, we had Coach Vaca wanted to beat Holy Cross and felt this class could do it. And the first time we played him, we traveled up to Waterbury and we were beating them, and then we ended up losing. They came from behind and beat us. I think it was 9-8, and we didn't play well towards the back half of the game. And Coach Vaca wasn't happy with us. And then when they came down to play us the second time at Nolan Field, they ended up winning 4-3. And they had a lefty, Scott Mandy, who went on to play Division I baseball, and he hit a home run into the seats off me into right field. And we didn't play very well either. We played a little bit scared.
Right.
And the following day at practice, we heard about it. And I to this day, prior to that, I'd never seen Coach Vaca act like that and get that, really send a message to us. And that really shook us. Right. That really shook us almost to the point where we didn't believe that he thought we were really trying. But from that point on, it turned the season around. It turned the season around because we toughened up and okay, let's go. This is it.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And I think there was a game against Naugatuck that really got you guys going. Am I correct?
That was the game. Again, we weren't playing well, and instead this time we came back and won, and we hit the ball all over the field in the last few innings and ended up beating Naugatuck and came back, and then the following week ended up beating Derby.
Right.
So 2-1, and Corey pitched a great game. Corey Thomasell pitched a great game, and so those two games together really got some momentum going, and then some of our guys started coming back from the injury list, and that started getting momentum building for us. So yeah.
Right. So let me ask you: did you believe by the time the tournament came that you guys could win this tournament? I mean, you got to take it one game at a time, but what was the mindset of the team when the tournament began?
Well, we knew we made it. We were 12-8, so we knew we made the tournament. I think it was an exhausting 20 games, right? We were just kind of trying to figure out, were we the team we thought we could be? But then we also found out that if we were going to go all the way, we'd have to win 5 games, and we'd have to go and do it all on the road.
Which isn't easy because there's a lot of travel. Were you guys Class S or Class M that year?
Class S.
Yeah, and Class S, guess what? I mean, sometimes your rides are an hour and 15 minutes away. It's not easy to sit on a bus that long, get off the bus, and go play a baseball game.
No, and so I think what you just said was one game at a time, right? One game at a time. And so, some of these bus rides are 45 to 60 minutes long. It ended up being an advantage for us. And this is some of the most vivid memories I have is being on that bus, going up to Griswold and just playing out of our minds and winning that first game, and then traveling back from Griswold on the bus and hanging out with Coach Vaca and establishing even a closer relationship with him. Those bus rides made our team closer. Right. And I think that was a key ingredient of why we went on and really played 5 of the best games that we had played all 4 years. So, yeah.
And now, did you pitch the opening game? Like, did it go, were you able to Coach Vaca work it out where you would definitely pitch the final game if there was, a championship game?
Well, I'm sure he had a method in his mind because he always did. But Corey started. Corey pitched out of his mind, and then in the second game we had travel. If we won that first game, we were going to have to go play the number 1 team, which is Turtle Lot. Way up where they were, and then on their home turf, and we ended up beating them like 13-2. I mean, it wasn't even close. And I think at that point we realized, okay, this is what we've been waiting for all season. And so Corey pitched the first game, I pitched that second game, and then we had a third game, and our guy from Colorado, Scott Mastuzzi, who hadn't pitched much all year, came in and pitched lights out against Cockenshog. And we won that game 3-2, really tight, close game. And Scott was awesome. That could probably what put us over and said, okay, now we got it. We're gonna do something special. So, yeah.
And Keith, just talk to me about who were some of the key players. I mean, that really, played a big part in you guys winning these games. I mean, you talk about the 13-2 games, so people hit that day. I mean, who were some of the guys that just really came through in the clutch for this team?
Well, I mean, Eddie Tedocio, he started hitting out of his mind, during that run. Jimmy Gagan played awesome at short. Kevin Sharkey was another one that caught fire there. I think he was our leadoff hitter, so he got things started. Scott Mastuzzi, he likewise our right fielder, not only pitching but some of the defensive plays he made. I mean, it was everybody gelled and started performing at the right time, and that is very vivid. Just remembering those 5 games. So, and then Coach Vaca kind of relaxed a little bit, and you could see it on the bus, but you could see it during the games. He's like, okay, we finally got these guys playing like they should. Let's go, right? Let's go. So
now, talk to me about the semi final game. Who did you guys play, and talk about that game a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's the one team I don't remember, but we played up in Southington, and I remember Corey pitching lights out and striking out. It had to be more than 10 batters and just painting the corners left and right. And that was so Corey came back and pitched game 4 and put us into the championship. And
and Keith, not every team is like this, but a lot of times when kids have been successful in another sport, and I bring up football again because when I was a kid, I mean, even though I was from Derby, I know that for a kid in Ansonia, the dream was to always be a great football player, win a state title. So it's not always easy when you do win a state title like you guys did in 1989 for the football team to go to another sport and have that same, goal to win a championship. Sometimes, kids, for whatever reason, it happens in basketball a lot where, they're like, well, that's not really our sport, so no big deal. But how did you guys, keep that intensity and motivation to, go out there and say, we want to win a championship?
Yeah, I mean, football. The tradition with football is very obvious, and was, the public knew about that. Every family knew that Ansonia was a football town. But the same thing was, it was the same way in baseball. Maybe it wasn't just as publicized or as felt widely, but like I said, Coach Vaca had high expectations, and his practices were a lot like Coach Hunt's, and then Coach Sponheimer's. My freshman year, very structured. This is what we're doing. Work hard, and so there was always an expectation that you were going to perform and that you were going to do your best.
Right.
Of course, while having fun. I mean, this is high school sports, so.
Right.
But there was just always an expectation there. And you had coaches that had been there a long time and had done it and been there. And so there's this legacy and this continuity that you may not have seen in other high schools with coaches with such long tenure. So,
Right.
yeah.
So talk to me about the night before the game. Let me ask you, I know you're a 17-year-old kid. It's sometimes kids don't have any nerves. They just go with the flow. But were you nervous that whole night? Were you able to sleep the night before?
Well, the funny thing is, so we were supposed to play Friday night, and we were there at the game, and the game got rained out. So
Right.
I remember sitting in the dugout, and there were a lot of people there. There's some college coaches. Coach Bonanto was there, my freshman baseball coach. So there were a lot of people watching, and they ended up calling the game while we were there. And then we had to come back the next day on a Saturday. I believe it was a Saturday, and then play it during the play during the day. So. Yeah, that night on Friday night, there was probably a different level of nervousness knowing what was at stake, right?
Yeah.
But we had come so far, we were playing so well. My mindset was just go throw strikes, and great things are going to happen. So rolling to the next day, we go back up there. That anxiety had calmed a little bit because we'd already been there, and okay, it's time to play.
Right. And how far did you guys have to travel for that championship game?
That was in Bristol at Muzzy. So
I mean, it's a long ride. It's not as long as some of the other ones per se, but it's still a long ride. So I mean, to go there 2 days in a row, that's not easy for a player. So just talk about the game and talk about the emotions of the game and how it all came about.
Well, you come into the game and you're like, this is it. This is the last game I'm going to play with an Ansonia jersey on for baseball. Last time I'll play with my buddies, right? And many of us went on to play in college. So, but this is it, and this is what we've worked 4 years for. So it was easy to really get in your own head. But it was a tight game, 1-0. Their pitcher, it was. I remember him being a right-handed pitcher, threw pretty well. In and out, and we really didn't put a lot together. The only run we scored was on Scott Mastuzzi's hit to right field, and I'd come around from first base and just beat the throw, sliding in the home, and that was the only run of the game. But it was really tight. We played unbelievable defense. I mean, I remember Eddie making a fantastic play at first base, getting knocked over. Jimmy Gagan making some great plays at shortstop, and then Brian Johansson behind the plate. Making some great stops in the dirt. I mean, you can remember all these things. So inning by inning, it's 1-0. You're going and you're like, this could be it. This could be the only run of the game. So
and I'm sure at that point, like, you're not thinking about, oh, what if I mess up or being nervous. You're just like, you know what, you're locked in and you're just throwing the ball, like you said.
Yeah. Well, I remember Coach Vaca it had to be the fourth or fifth inning. I remember him getting us together and saying, and in a way that he never would. I mean, he was pretty. I think he knew what could happen here and what was at stake, and he was, he gave us a good pep talk and said, "All right, let's Keith's going to keep throwing strikes. You guys got to keep making the plays, and good things are going to happen." So. I remember that pep talk, and that got us going. And then, and I remember, then I remember the last inning, Brian calling the fastball on the outside corner, hit the corner, struck him out, and just, probably one of the greatest high school memories was jumping into the air to Brian, as Brian came up to congratulate me, and then everybody, the big pile-on. And a lot of the football players were there, so they're piling on. It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. So
now, take me to that last batter. Even the final inning. I mean, was there any was it an easy inning for you? Did you struggle at all that last inning? Talk about that last inning.
No, it was that, it was probably one of the easier innings, knowing like, okay, this is it. This is it. We're going to attack them. I remember Brian coming up and before the first pitch and saying, okay, we're going all fastballs. That's it. And we pounded the zone with fastballs, and that was it. Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that final out. What was the feeling like when you realized, wow, we did it. We're state champions?
It was surreal, just because, again, of all the expectations the previous years, and then the fact that we didn't have the senior year that we envisioned, but guess what, we did, and we won it all. Yeah, right. So it was really surreal. I think it finally hit all of us. We celebrated. All the coaches, Coach Dell was there, Coach Vaca, they were all part of the, obviously Coach Vaca. And then we all went back to his house afterwards to celebrate. And I think that's when it all kind of settled in. Is like, wow, we just traveled 5 games and didn't miss a beat. And it was almost a completely different season than the regular season. And we did it. And we did it. And we did it with our buddies. So it was even better.
Right. And Keith, the crazy thing is, that is a time during your senior year where you got so many things that are going on outside the field. You've got prom to think about. You've got graduation. You said yourself, you're hoping to play college ball. So you've got scouts, and I'm sure you talk to schools and stuff like that. So, it wasn't just about playing baseball that whole season. There are a lot of other things too that a senior has to worry about. So to win a championship with all that going on, it's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, we still talk about it today. We got our 30-year reunion coming up, and so we're all planning on how we're going to get together. And then this fantasy football league keeps us connected as well. So we're always reliving the memories of that championship state run. So
right. Yeah. Now Keith, when I talked to Ben Bartone, who played for Derby, good pitcher as well. He won a state title in both football and baseball. Now, you won 3 in football. So, I mean, it wasn't like you only won the 1 championship where Ben only won the 1 football championship. But I asked him which championship meant more. And he said, he loves football, and that was awesome to win. But he'd probably put baseball slightly ahead because he said it's so hard to win a championship in baseball and so rare. Would you say that's the same thing for you? I mean, did the baseball one mean just a little more than the football one?
Slightly. Yeah, slightly. Because, the football, I mean, football at Ansonia was really special just because of the tradition and the fact that you could do it year after year. But how we won the baseball championship and what we had to go through to get there and then finally do it and was definitely special, right? It was definitely special.
Yeah. And Keith, the thing is, I mean, Ansonia did get to a final in 1996. I think they might have got to a couple of semifinals, but they haven't won since that 1990 team. So, I mean, you're talking 31 years now. So it's really remarkable when you think about it, because that's how hard it is. They had great teams, and, most of the time they did what they were supposed to do. But it is so hard because, it's not like in Major League Baseball where you get a chance after you lose a game. You guys lose a game, you're out, you're done. So, I mean, the fact that you guys won that title, it's really remarkable.
Yeah, I think with baseball, you get one pitcher that's hot, and he can carry a team and beat any team on any given day. And that's the difference between baseball and football. So you can have a very average team, and you can have one pitcher, just throw lights out, and during the tournament, and that can really be a difference for a team that may not be all that great, beating a very a more talented team. And that's just a general statement. So you see, I saw that in pro ball, and now that now when I'm coaching my kids, it's the same thing. So it's a bit tougher in baseball, I think. So
right. Yeah. Now, Keith, you talked about the close bond you had with Coach Vaca, what he meant to you. Let's get back to football for a second. Another guy, you had a admiration for Coach Hunt, Coach Lisi, Coach Del Volpe, all those guys. But a guy that really meant a lot to you as a player and a person, was Coach John Sponheimer, who was your freshman football coach. And, you know, everybody I talked to, Keith, you know, referees, other coaches, they will always say what a genius that guy is when it comes to football. Just talk about Coach Sponheimer a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it was my first experience playing formal, organized football. But Coach Sponheimer, yeah, I mean, he understood the game just like the other coaches at Ansonia. But there was a leadership quality about Spoonie that really resonated with me, right? And so, you know, every player has great coaches, and then there's those coaches that you connect with a little bit and really your style. So with Spoonie, what he did for me was he got me out of my shell. Right. I mean, I wanted to be the quarterback. There was plans for me to be the quarterback, but you know, after that first week, you know, I mean, he basically pushed me to be more vocal, to be a leader, and to learn the plays because most of my teammates had played football through Pop Warner, right? So because there was such a strong tradition. So, and the thing with Coach Sponheimer was he always took it to a different level, right? So it wasn't just about football, but it was about school. It was about, you know, the why behind why I'm making you work so hard, why we're staying after because we're not getting the plays right. And it was just the why behind it. And he really set up all of us for JV and varsity football, right? So I really think he was and is the key to, you know, Coach Brockett and Coach Hunt's successes. He set the tone. This is what Ansonia football is. And he goes, this is the way we're going to do things. Very similar to Coach Vaca, but then he also had that leadership quality about him that he did not tolerate or accept anything less than excellence. And so you just, I mean, for all of us at Ansonia, you have all those coaches that are like that. It's, you know, you're now I realize just how blessed we were, how lucky we were. So yeah.
And you know, Keith, I alluded to it earlier, that 1989 Ansonia team. I'd say it, you know, there's been some great Ansonia teams and everybody has their, you know, team, their favorite team that they think's the best. But I mean, my God, watching that 1989 team, you know, you guys just ran people over that year. You know, I think about the Torrington game when you guys won 62-0. It was just Kevin Sharkey had a tremendous year, you know, Dennis Tinney, yourself, Chris Kinnebrew, you know, Mike Diuto, all those guys. Talk to me about that team. And, you know, we're also going to talk about, because you also did something that was very rare in the Derby game, but just talk to me about that team a little bit.
Yeah, it was another team there was another, you know, these groups that were within the team that had these tight bonds, right? And so, you know, there was these core football players along with a group of baseball and football players that came together. So there was, similar to baseball, there was a tight bond between, you know, a lot of the seniors and the varsity players. But the other thing I think was that I think it was probably the most underestimated class in terms of, you know, around that time, just in terms of the offensive weapons. I mean, Dennis Tinney was a great receiver. You had Eric Lacko at wideout, and then you had Brian Johansson at tight end, who had some huge games. I mean, the Naugatuck game, we probably connected on 10 passes. That was that 14-7 game. The Thanksgiving game that got postponed because of all the snow. And then obviously you had Kinnebrew, who could run over anybody, and then Sharkey, and you know, you had all those weapons. There really wasn't enough plays to go around during the game. There
even had Robbie Clark, who would make some big plays as a sophomore. Yeah, it was just something really special. Now, talk about the Derby game, because I think it was the final touchdown you guys got on them. You beat them 28-7. I don't know what you would call the play, but it was a little, you know, you pitched the ball off to, was it Dennis or was it Robbie Clark? I forget who it was. And you got a pass thrown to you for a touchdown. Just talk about that, because that's very rare for a quarterback to catch a touchdown pass.
Yeah. Well, I always wanted to run. I wasn't a running quarterback by any means. So I always wanted to rush for a touchdown, which I did. And then I always wanted to catch a pass, right? I told Coach Hunt and Coach Dell, can I at least catch a pass? So we designed this play. It was a pitch to the right, and then what I would do is fade to the left, kind of incognito out of the backfield, and either Dennis Tinney or Kevin Sharkey would throw it back. So it was a quarterback throwback pass.
Right.
And so it was an extra point, and we decided to do it. I think we were up 27-7 at the time, and I came around the left side, and I think it was Kevin put the pass right in my arms, and Jeff Owens, who I'm good friends with from Derby, he was right beside me. I actually outran Jeff Owens. That'll never happen again. So it was great. So it was my only catch ever as a varsity player.
That was pretty impressive. Now, the final game of the year against Naugatuck, you guys got rained out on Thanksgiving or snowed out. So you guys play on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. No, actually, I think it was Sunday.
No Friday nights back then. Very few Friday night games.
Right. So you had to wait a couple of days after the rain out. It was a close 14-7 game. Naughty played you guys tough. Just sometimes you need those games, though. Did you guys feel like getting through that game, you knew you were going to beat Weston in the championship game, that was the game you had to get through to get over the hurdle?
Yeah, that team was probably one of the more confident teams I've played with just in general in sports. I mean, it was no lack of confidence on the team, but we knew the field, it snowed and rained. It was really muddy. It was questionable whether we were going to play.
Yeah.
And because it was supposed to be a Thanksgiving game, and then we ended up playing on Sunday. So it was even on Sunday, there was, the field conditions weren't great. So that kind of neutralized Sharkey and Kennebrew and Tinney running, and then we had to throw the ball a lot more, and we threw a lot to our tight ends that game, and that kind of got us both touchdowns. But it was a tough game. They played us tough, couldn't run. The traction was not great, and and once we won that game, we're like, okay, we want to be number one. I remember that was a clear. There was no two ways about it. We were going to be the number one team in the state, and that was the goal. So
right, and the championship game was wild because how you guys played that game that day, I'll never know. I mean, you couldn't even see the field; it was covered in snow. It was a crazy.
It was
game.
awesome.
Just talk about
awesome.
as a player,
it was awesome. I mean, they were not going to cancel the game. It was down the turf at Southern Connecticut on the field, and we were playing Weston. And Brian Johansson and I actually had SATs that morning. So it's early December. It's the last time really to take your SATs before your applications are due, right? So we go down. We're in his yellow station wagon trying to get to the field. We couldn't find where the locker room was because, again, we weren't with the team. We had to travel in separately. And then we had to rush to get our stuff on. I get out in the field, and I remember, I'm like, wow, it's cold out here. It's cold, and you got snow. And I remember my hands being so cold, and it was hard to grip the ball. So I remember my dad going home and getting batting gloves so I could actually throw the ball, right? So I remember all that because it was, when you're a 17-year-old kid, you're like, God, I don't want to miss my high school championship game for football. And so, but it was a crazy game. And Coach Dell, the offensive corner, really opened it up. We did a lot of trick plays.
Yeah, the fumble Ruski, I remember that.
Fumble Ruski, the hook and ladder play. We got Kennebrew come out of the infield, out of the backfield, and threw him a couple long passes. We got our tight ends involved, so it was a fun game. And then defense played out of their minds again. So so we came out of that game knowing we're going to be number one team in the state, and that's it. So
right. And you know what I remember, too? Coach Hunt, after the game, being interviewed by the news or whatever, he said something to the effect like, New London, we'll play you anywhere to decide who's number one. We'll play you in the parking lot if you want. So Coach Hunt was feeling it that day. I mean, you don't always see that, humorous side of him, but that he did that day for sure.
Yeah, Coach Hunt, like Coach Bach and Holy Cross, with Coach Hunt and New London, there was no love lost.
Right.
There was no love lost. And so there was a lot of, what I can remember, there was a lot of chirping between both head coaches, New London and Coach Hunt, before the game, who's going to be number one. And so Coach Hunt, I think the statement was, Coach Hunt, we'll shovel off the field, come down here, we'll play tomorrow, and we'll see who's number one in the state. So,
yeah. So Keith, let me ask you, high school comes to an end and you attend Yale. Did Coach Benanto recruit you? I think that might have been his last season, your freshman year. I could be wrong, but I think so, correct?
Yeah, it was his last season, Coach, and 20 years at Yale, I believe. And he had recruited me. Back then, there was no marketing, there was no formal process or, these recruitment camps. It was basically, coaches had to learn through the newspaper or by having relationships with the high school coaches. And so, yeah, Coach Bonanza, being from Shelton, had talked to Coach Baca, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew I loved to play baseball. I know I wanted to get a good education. The last school I probably would have said I would have gone to was an Ivy League school, just because I didn't know it was me. But yeah, Coach Bonanza recruited me. I went down there, like my high school class, met a great group of guys that wanted to major in baseball.
Yeah,
I'll say that again. Our major was baseball, so we kind of clicked, and I'm like, when I went on that recruiting trip, I'm like, if I can get into Yale and Coach Bonanza, wants me to come play, this is the place for me. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So.
And I mean, how were like freshman and sophomore year for you? Did you see any action at all, or was it did it happen gradually?
Yeah, that freshman year, you talk about maybe a big adjustment period academically and athletically going to Yale. I mean, it was tough. It was tough because, academically, everybody has a certain level of expectation. And, I worked hard at Ansonia. It wasn't like I was naturally just show up for class. I worked hard. Now I had to work even harder just to get decent grades. And then athletically, yeah, I mean, everybody knew how to throw the ball at Yale. Yeah. They knew how to hit. They were all physically bigger than me. So that first year was definitely probably a big adjustment year for me. I really had no idea what I was getting into. So it was a challenge. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's a different level of game too. I mean, colleges, you think you know everything. In high school, you think you've learned everything. And then, it's like anything else. Every level you go up, you learn something more. And I'm sure that's what you were able to do during your time at Yale.
Yeah. Freshman year, I pitched a little bit. I got some time. I played JV a little bit as well. There was JV baseball back then. Yeah. And then sophomore year was the breakout year for me. So when I came into my sophomore year, I'd got a year academically under my belt. I kind of knew what it was going to take to succeed, and get at least a 3.0. But then athletically, what I realized is, I never really lifted weights. I never really worked on being a better pitcher. I just show up and play because it was fun. Right. At that point, I realized after the fall season, my sophomore year, was if I was going to really be a pitcher at this level, I was going to have to work. And that's when I started lifting weights. That's when I started working at it and got serious, because really the risk was after fall season with Coach Bonanza leaving, you may not be able to play here. So,
yeah, because you don't know the new coach. He may have a different idea. That's always the the unknown about a new coach. So Keith, we're going to have you back in a couple of weeks, and we're going to go more into the college, and then obviously, when you went pro and stuff. But just back to high school, just talk to me before we go about how rewarding it was to be a part of Ansonia High School, winning these championships, and what baseball did for you on a personal level.
Yeah. The first thing I'll say is being from Ansonia is probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
And I'll say that again. It's because people in Ansonia are very real. It's a simple way of life, and sports was such an integral part of not just, trying to win championships, but just learning life lessons. And to top it off, you get great friends, and then a group of coaches that cared about you and were there for so long and created a legacy. You put all that together, and it's a pretty a place that you knew, that I realize now how I probably took it for granted. So so the friendships, the relationships, and then you realize that a lot of what you were taught subconsciously is who you are now. So I'll be out coaching my kids, and I'll talk about, hey, work hard, watch the good things happen, or tough times don't last, tough people do, stuff like that. And these are the things that the Coach Hunts and the Coach Sponheimers and the Coach Bacas talk a lot about, back in high school, back 30 something years ago. So yeah, and then top it off, to be a part of a school in a town that that had so much tradition, and we were able to win championships and share that together is awesome. And so, like I said, these same guys that I played with in high school, we're still friends, right? I mean, we're
right, and that's
you
the
know,
most important thing.
Tedocio,
Yeah.
Johansson, and Gagan and I were just texting before the interview. So yeah,
Right.
so it's like, yeah, I mean, it's really special. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, Keith, like I said, we're going to have you back on in a couple of weeks, and we're going to get into the college aspect of your game and also talk about when you go pro. But I really want to thank you for coming on today to talk about this 1990 team. I'm trying to remember in the beginning of the show, did I say 1989? I can't remember, but if I did, I apologize. But this 1990 baseball team was very special. It's very rare to win a championship in any type of sport. But to do what you guys did, it's just remarkable. And, I congratulate you on the 30th anniversary of that team, you and your teammates. You guys set a standard in high school baseball that'll never be forgotten. And you as a person and you as an athlete, I mean, you conduct yourself like an athlete should, like a person should. And I really do applaud you for the kind of human being you are. And I want to thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, Mike. Thanks. It's awesome to relive this stuff. So keep doing this and bringing people on. I think it people love reliving the memories, and then hopefully you keep this going. So congrats on your show. So,
well,
yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll see you in a week or two, and we'll definitely get into the college career, and I look forward to it. And thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Keith. Take care.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. The Ansonia baseball team, the 1990 team. It was a special group of guys who from the time they were freshmen knew what they wanted to do. They had one goal in mind, and that was to win a championship together. They thought it might happen their junior year, even sophomore year. And then senior year, when things looked like, they didn't have a chance to do it, they came out of nowhere with a pivotal game against Naugatuck that really turned the season around. Keith told you about the tournament. You saw how they just went in and they just had that confidence that said, this is ours. We're not going to let anybody beat us. They had the attitude, don't dream it, be it. They are a special group of guys, great human beings, and they're champions forever. When you look back in 1990, there was a great time in Valley sports. But if you don't talk about the 1990 Ansonia Class S baseball championship team, then you're doing a disservice. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Kenichi saying goodbye, everyone.